Weight does affect my day-to-day life. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with anorexia, and then at 19 was diagnosed with bulimia. And I've been in recovery for 2 years now. And as much as I would like to say that I am fully recovered, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the way I look or the way how much I weigh. Food was the only thing that I could control.
I think it was my sophomore year in high school. I went to a mental health institution, and they classified me with starving myself over long periods of time, just basically not eating. And then I had delusions about my body. I saw myself as bigger than I was.
All my life I've felt like, you know, as I said before, that I was different. You know, it doesn't matter how big you are, you want to be smaller, or how small you are, you want to be bigger.
我的体重对我身体的影响，在我中学的时候，那时候我非常的胖，那个时候我很难的去移动，然后也不能跑得像别人一样快。
I've had like some of my white friends say, I wish I had your little tiny legs, or like, I wish I had those legs. And I'm like, my legs look like 2 little pretzel sticks, and you want these legs, and you're this curvaceous, you know, white woman. You have a beautiful body, but you're talking about wanting to be my size, and like, I look unhealthy.
Looking back on it now, I wouldn't change it for anything, and it's definitely made me who I am. And you know, I always thought to myself, I'm going to be so afraid to have a daughter. I would never wish what I went through upon her.
I do feel confident, but again, I don't. It's my, like, size I am. Like, these other girls have, like, really small clothes when I have big clothes.
I don't know. Like, I'd say a lot to my younger self. I wish I had realized sooner how little other people's opinions matter, and how little any of it matters. Like, I wish that I didn't, I don't know, man, like, I just had, like, a lot of thoughts that, like, children shouldn't have, you know, because of the way that people treated me. And, like, no child should feel like that ever. Like, none, ever.
A lot of boys and girls, they tease other people, and they tease me because they're all skinny, and I'm like one of the overweight people in my class. And they just say that, why are you overweight, and that you're ugly for being overweight, and that you're not beautiful or like how the other people are.
When I was a kid, one of my favorite movies was The Little Mermaid. And if you look at any Disney princess movie, your protagonist, Ariel, is this teeny tiny little waist mermaid, and your antagonist is Ursula, this big octopus, evil looking lady. And from that very instant, as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, however old you are watching this movie, you are automatically creating the connection that being thin is good, and being this large, evil thing is just bad. And, you know, from day one, that's how we're brainwashed. That's how we start out, and it's so unrealistic.
I never got it, because I was like, if I'm so okay with myself and I like myself so much, like, I love myself. And I never understood why, you know, other people couldn't see that. Like, why do they think there's something so wrong with me? And I, like, my child brain just, like, couldn't understand it.
While I was in rehab in the middle of the desert in Arizona, I was 17 at the time. And I was there with a girl who was 8 years old. And she had a feeding tube and was just grossly underweight. I mean, just borderline on the brink of being in the hospital. And I talked to her, obviously. I have such a heart for children. And she's sitting there telling me that her mom, since she was 6 years old, has always been on her about her weight and started her on Weight Watchers when she was 7. And I remember going back to my room that night and just crying for her, thinking to myself, I cannot even believe at 8 years old you're having to deal with all of these pressures. When I was 8 years old, I was running around in the sprinkler in the front yard, not a care in the world. And to think at such a young age she's already dealing with all of these problems, it was devastating to me. And then on the other hand, at a different treatment center I went to, I became friends with a woman who was almost 70 years old. She, too, almost borderline needed to be in the hospital. And she had dealt with her eating disorder since she was 14. And that really just put it in my mind, okay, Hannah, you got to kick this shit, because this woman has spent almost 50 years of her life dealing with this. Do you really want to deal with this for 50 years, let alone another day?
It's so funny because, like, when we talk about, like, the media being so negative and stuff towards influence, I feel like it's almost at the point where there's, like, everything been said that could be said. Like, there's so much evidence in how negatively it affects how everyone feels.
I think as a whole, media influences body concepts in very minimalistic ways that make a big impact on everyone's lives. They show this certain image that's uniform through, like, all media, for whether it be advertising like underwear or swimsuits. It's all, either men with six packs or women with very, unrealistic, body images, and same with men. And I feel like that constant image of perfection in media really influences everyone's lives and makes us feel below what other people are, because they're put to this this perception of, like, godhood, kind of, because we idolize them in this sense that they're, they have this perfect body, and normal people look, like me or someone else.
Black women are expected to have huge asses, and Latinx women are supposed to have, like, that curvaceous Selena S. J-Lo look to them, and white women are supposed to be more of your Audrey Hepburn, like, kind of just an elegant shape. They're dainty women, versus black women are looked at as masculine or harsh, and sometimes usually the more unattractive element to a TV show. And then with Latinx women, they are spicy and sexy and, like, something different.
I believe that the media uses Photoshop to make us feel even worse about ourselves. You put this stick-thin model on the camera, and before she's on the cover of the magazine, they've taken 10 pounds off of her. They've made her legs longer and her neck longer and her hair fuller, making it seem that is the ideal beauty, when in reality that beauty is completely unattainable. And that's why I'm so afraid for our younger generation of girls, is that they see these models and these photos and things like that, and They do everything in their power to look like that girl. Well, they have to know that that girl doesn't exist.
Retouched pictures and stuff, like, even that person doesn't look that way. So, like, how are you going to try to sell me that body when even that person doesn't have that body?
I think that every man wants to have this V taper, wide, broad at the shoulders, you know, and narrow at the hips. And that's just, I guess that, you know, I guess I think of, you know, the Greek gods and the aesthetics. When I think of, like, what I think I should look like, it stems back from reading books like that and seeing pictures like that from Greek mythology back in grade school, you know, is these Greek gods, and, like, that's what we should look like as humans. And for me, that's where it stems from. I've never really thought about it like that, but really that's where it's from.
Growing up, yes, as a kid, boys are brainwashed to think that they need to look a certain way. They need to look like a tidy, strong man, very clean-cut man. Especially in America, it's like they drill it down your throat, making you think that you have to look this certain way. You'll look anywhere and you'll see some guy with six-pack abs, these really big arms for no reason, and I think to myself, I was like, why do I have to look that way? What's the point? But I know in the back of my head I want to look like that because it would make things easier for myself.
Each individual person has their own, like, experience in, like, battles with weight, whether it being too skinny or too fat. Some people just hate the way they look, and I feel like it's becoming way more prevalent today compared to, you know, previous time periods because of the way that media and people push for this idealistic view of weight, and we've kind of created this hive mind to what the standard of beauty is, and I feel like that really needs to be changed, because the way that children interact with each other affects them later in life, and it affects them into adulthood, and it affected me a long time in my life, and just from very small things, and I feel like it should be different. It shouldn't be the way it is now. It was mostly what my friends said to me, like, I'd never find someone that cared about me, and that I'd always be, like, fat and undesirable and stuff like that. And it really just made me think inwardly that I'd always be a failure, and I'd never be seen as someone who's important, really.
Some people will use a symbolism of the relationship of God to the universe, wherein God is, say, brilliant light, only somehow veiled, hiding underneath all these forms that you see as you look around you. But the truth is funnier than that. It is that you are looking right at the brilliant light now, that the experience you are having, which you call ordinary everyday consciousness, pretending you're not it, that experience is exactly the same thing as it. There's no difference at all. In other words, when you really start to see things, and you go into the nature of what it is to see, what vision is, or what smell is, or what touch is, you realize that that vision is the brilliant light of the cosmos. That it is actually, see, the source of all light is in the eye. If there were no eyes in this world, the sun would not be light. You evoke light out of the universe. In the same way, you, by virtue of having a soft skin, evoke hardness out of wood. Wood is only hard in relation to a soft skin. It's your eardrum that evokes noise out of the air. You, by being this organism, call into being the whole universe of light and color and hardness and heaviness and everything. So everybody says, all right, know yourself, look within, find out who you are. Because the harder you look, you won't be able to find it. Then you'll realize that it isn't there at all. There isn't a separate you. Your mind is what there is, everything.
I definitely think I feel at home, like in my flesh prison.
People think that beauty is skinny. People think that being skinny is always beautiful, but I think being overweight can also be beautiful.
I really wish beauty wasn't taken so seriously. Beauty, to me, outer beauty, is so superficial. I mean, nothing about it is tangible. Think about it. When you die, you're not going to be able to take your toned, sexy body with you. You're able to take your soul and your being, and what makes you you is not your body. It's you, your heart, the things you love, the people you love. That's what defines you. That's what I would change about beauty.
What would I say to someone struggling with their weight? It gets better. I don't know. I wouldn't believe it if I saw myself a certain way. Me putting myself back then in my mindset, I wouldn't believe that it was going to get better, but it does.
What I would say for someone who is struggling with their weight is, before you decide how you would like to make yourself more comfortable with that, so that if you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, have a healthier lifestyle, it's going to take a bit of you loving yourself in your current body and the current home of your soul.
If you choose to be overweight, then that's who you are, and you're beautiful for that.
因为一个人正确的体型没有特别的规定，没有太胖或者太瘦，你只要你的身体不影响你的日常生活，感觉最主要的还是一个人的状态，最主要就是自信，还有乐观、积极向上的心态。美丽的定义就是没有什么特殊的定义，它没有说太胖或者太瘦，它只要不影响你的日常生活、你的日常作息，最主要的还是一个人的心态，他是否拥有自信，是否每天乐观、积极向上。永远不要在意别人的目光，过你自己就好。不管你现在是胖或者是瘦，你只要觉得你现在不胖，你就不胖；你只要觉得你现在不瘦，你就不瘦。
If you are struggling with your weight, or you think you might be having some eating disorder behaviors, I urge you to talk to someone about it. By talking about it, you will give it less power. You'll put it on the table to where you can see how small it is in retrospect to the grand scheme of your life.